Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome to a special F1 2020 series featuring my team, but in a different than what you would typically see out there on so many other channels. A lot of people are using MyTeam career modes this season, and that is certainly not unique in any way. But what's unique about this is we're going to go for MyTeam Principal mode. I am not the driver. I'll pick up a couple races here and there, but really only a couple races per season. I have a first driver, and I'm going to have a second driver, and we're going to play more around with the mechanics behind it. The facilities upgrades, the team management, and the car development, and we're going to see if we can produce a winner behind the scenes as a Toto Wolff or Christian Horner type team principal. Here's our first setup. We've taken a slightly more aggressive choice on our sponsorship with TriStar. Reason for that is we needed a better signing bonus. Weekly income, slightly lower. It's only $224,000 per week, but that's not bad. Gold bonus has a solid $4 million reward, but we're going to have to get 2 points finishes during the season. That is definitely easier said than done with the approach we're taking. But to help us out with that, we're going to get a real boost, a real boon from having Mercedes engines. So performance is pretty high, durability is pretty good, but it's a little more expensive. We're going to start this series out with Ralph Boschung, but I'm going to put 0 investment into Boschung because he will not be our go-to driver before long. And you'll see where we're headed with that just a little ways when we have our first contract period coming up. But that's as far as he's going with us as a team. Arva with a quick appearance here. Nice little cameo.
Okay, we're live in 5, 4, 3.
Hello folks, and welcome to the HQ of Formula One's newest team. We've been invited backstage to gain an exclusive insight into what could be one of the most exciting entries in the sport for many years. Now, we've seen a number of new teams enter the sport over the last decade, amongst their number Manor, Caterham, HRT and of course Haas. And while some have proved to be successful, others have morphed into different teams and some have disappeared completely.
So Will Buxton has given us a series of questions set to give us a little boost to the car starting the season out, and we'll see where that places us on the grid compared to everyone else. We open with just 1,000 R&D points, a level 1 acclaim, meaning we have no renown, and just $200,000 to our name. So we open this series with something familiar, R&D. This hasn't changed, but how you set it up, definitely there's a lot more going into it than there used to be. I've opted for something very balanced, and as a Mercedes customer, this is where you can see our old familiar upgrades available here. They're slated for specific dates. We've already fitted a turbo and valve timing upgrade, and you can see our engine right now as a Mercedes customer is definitely stronger than Red Bull and AlphaTauri at the bottom. Honda, the weaker power unit. McLaren and Renault, a step above that. We're not quite on par with the other Mercedes teams at this point. We can develop our way into that, and we have 1 upgrade, a minor energy recovery system. So we've got an ERS, but if we want more than that, and we really need it, we're going to immediately spend some points on a minor engine power, an ignition system that could bring us on par just about with Williams, Racing Point, and Mercedes. Unfortunately, the game, they did a day 1 patch to performance, and they nerfed Ferrari a bit. Ferrari had started with, it looked like they had last year's cars still. Williams was way behind everybody else. Ferrari had the best car on the grid. Day 1 patch nerfed that a bit, but they didn't nerf the engine, surprisingly. And it was clear in week 1 in Austria that that was where Ferrari had really dropped off and why they were only a midfield team and not one of the Power 3. Now, with only 475, I don't think we're going to be able to afford anything else. I will need to worry about things like reliability for this playthrough, especially with the simulations we're going to be running. We have 2 upgrades to the chassis. We have 3 to durability, but all 3 of those are customer upgrades. And we have 2 for aero. The key to MyTeam is finances. It takes a lot of money, and you need to build your team renown to increase the funds that you're bringing in. The more money you have, the more upgrades you could put into the facilities, the more it's going to boost the rate at which you develop your car. And with quick simulations, I'm not going to earn a lot of points on track. In fact, we're going to get very few points on track. So almost all of it's going to have to come through the facilities. So we need to build a claim very early on, and we need to get additional sponsors if we are going to get to that point where we have a car that is comparable to the rest of the field. I think my favorite new feature here in MyTeam is a proper calendar with the races broken down by weekends, slots that are filled in without choice, but then you have an opportunity to assign activities specifically, and that's going to be one of the key features of this playthrough as we manage this activity timeline on screen throughout, and so we can develop. If you have advice, if you're further along, especially if you got the advanced Michael Schumacher edition, that special edition, and you're a little further in, feel free to comment below for advice on ways to go. But I'll tell you right now, my intention for pretty much the entirety of Season 1, or the majority of Season 1, and we'll see how far we have to go along with that to be successful. It could take a couple seasons of it. We're going to focus on bringing in team acclaim, driver 1 acclaim, and cash. Resource points developing the car is going to be secondary this first year. We're going to struggle, but that's okay. We're going for long term, and as we fly through seasons with this mode, it won't take us that long to get to Season 2 anyway. So right now we have 14 days, but starting out we have 9 to fill in. So just 9 days to fill in here, late February. So let's go ahead and fill the first slot. 5 and 5, well, that's not going to fit in very well. So let's go for one of the 7s, which are power and durability or aero. I do want to develop aero, and we've already punched our way into powertrain, so why don't we go ahead and go with an aero and chassis focus. All right. Leaves only 2 days, not enough space. If we would have gone 5, again, it would have not been enough space. We've got the car reveal after that. So that's where we'll open up, and how many days remain there? 5 days. So now we'll get into one of those 5-day upgrades. So we have preseason advertisement campaign. That's 500 team acclaim. That's huge. That's very huge. 500,000, also very huge. And that's definitely the way we need to go. So it's one of those two, the team acclaim or the money. I think the money straight up front we can use to bring in more acclaim, and since that has a cost, I don't know, 500's a lot though. You know what, let's go ahead and do that advertisement. And that'll take us to the first Grand Prix weekend, also the car reveal, so let's go ahead and advance to that. Push through that first activity. And here we are to our car reveal. And you'll see our theme here in just a moment. And there she is with a pink and black livery. Yeah, I know there's some likeness to Racing Point, but there's a couple things. One, Racing Point next year becomes Aston Martin. They're going to have a whole new color scheme at that point. But also very, very different pinks. So I'm not too worried about overlapping with that. But there's going to be a connection to what we have. And let's start with the first piece of that connection. All right, so at the helm, since I am not the primary driver, the driver that I will use in the sims and the occasional race that I do control, we bring in Juju Noda. So Juju Noda is a real person. If you have not heard of Juju Noda, then you are missing out on one heck of a legend. There is no driver that has been as hyped as Juju Noda, with the exception of Max Verstappen in the last decade or two. Reason being, Juju Noda is ridiculously quick at a very young age. Their father, Hideki Noda, drove Formula One. It was only a few races back in '94, but drove Formula One. But Juju is a special case. Juju, potential to be the first female to qualify for a Formula One race in many, many years, and will here in just a moment as we enter our first race weekend. But in real life, has that potential because she is ridiculously quick, but also she is very, very young. Just about a month ago, turned 14. At age 12, she set a lap record in a Formula 3 car in Japan. Just about 2 weeks ago, she moved from Japan to Europe to get into the best racing series. At her age, all she could get into was a Formula 4 series in Denmark. She won the first race a couple weeks ago, first race of the season as they just got started. She's the real deal for a young teenager. And there's a... Alright, now this is a screen that anyone who's played in recent years would be very familiar with. We are entering our first race of our career, but the first practice is locked in. You have to enter it, so we're going to do one quick lap.
Before qualifying. It'll give us a good indication of our relative pace and consistency.
Alright, so for this first one, we are forced into a mandatory participation. It definitely won't be a regular thing. We'll be bypassing this first race here momentarily, but we'll at least get the first hot lap in the car as we get a little oversteer there as we come through that one, and it really threw off the whole corner, but we managed to save it and at least get an okay evaluation on that corner. A lot of oversteer in this car. Actually, F1 2020 in general, the car is not as well planted as 2019 was, but I still really like how the cars feel otherwise. That oversteer kicking in again.
Great stuff.
So first session out, I run a single lap. We get 225 resource points for that. It'd be a nice boost weekend after weekend to grab all of those points, but we're not. We're going to use that quick sim, and generally for an entire practice program, we're going to only grab about 400 points or 300 points even as an entire team. So we're missing out on a lot of points of development in this mode. But we'll see what we can do with it. Again, this is more about getting to see the mechanics in play instead of having to take it one race at a time. Alright, so as promised, we're going to use the simulate session, and that'll buy us a few more development points. Now this is where this series is going to get really challenging. Juju, there is no simulation of qualifying, so Juju is going to have to go into every race from the back of the grid, making life much more difficult. And here we go for our first career simulated race. Let's see how the team does without me. Now, the AI in past versions of F1 your personal AI
So then, it's time to
is
see how
really
this
bad.
result affects the Drivers'
Not here.
Championship. After an incredible performance, Lewis Hamilton secures the top spot in the Drivers' Championship. Let's move on to the Constructors. Mercedes move to the top of the table. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
So in a major surprise, Juju actually ends up placing extremely well from 22nd up to 9th place in a 25% race. I don't know if that's AI difficulty being scaled in such a way. I'm probably going to have to tweak that to have Juju finish in a relative position comparative to our teammates and our car's strength, because picking up those 2 points was awesome, but also unrealistic from last place with this car. Probably could have placed about 18th. We are third from worst on the grid. So I'll try to tweak the AI difficulty to try to match whatever the in-game human AI would do. Alright, so AI has been turned up by 10 points. We only have a couple days before we have to head off to the next race weekend as we open the season with back-to-back races. With G-Force training, that second driver. I told you I'm not going to do anything with Bahrain. You'll see why later. We have Team Acclaim, 100 points. Second driver, 100 points. No durability plus 5. Let's go with the Team Acclaim. Okay, this is how our facilities look. So this is our first glance at the facilities. We do have a bonus in Aero right now based on the way we selected our interview answers at the beginning. So we did pick up an Aero bonus, which will allow us to develop a bit faster. The first thing I want to do, though, is I want a marketing upgrade, but that's 2 million, so we need to put away a little bit of money. We're under 1 million right now. Let's go ahead and move on to R&D. We do have 1,900 points to use, and wow, look at that. Actually, we are level on par with Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri right now, ahead of Haas and Williams. I think I picked up that extra powertrain development already, and that's what scooted us from below those two to above. Happy with where we're at right now. We'll take this rear wing development. It's pretty affordable and should be ready quickly. And small chance of failure. Chassis also needs to catch up with the rest of the field. Higher chance of failure, but definitely not too costly and would be easy to fix, but it's going to take a couple of races before it's done. And do we have enough for a second engine upgrade? We do. Minor engine power. 40% chance of failure. It's a little bit higher, but again, still good odds that 2, or if not all 3 of those upgrades are ready and go without failure. And with that excellent round 1 performance, we've actually jumped to level 2 Acclaim, which has given us a chance to get a secondary sponsor. Looking at that, we have, let's see, 3 constructors points during a race weekend. That's going to be hard to come by. And maybe we should go. So Atlantic, total of 75 laps during a race weekend. That's not going to happen when I'm simming everything. 10 championship points during a race weekend. That's really hard to do. Achieve a fastest lap during a race. Not happening. Overtake 15 drivers. Score 5 Constructors' Championship points during a race weekend. Score 3. Overtake 10. Complete all practice programs. Overtake 5. Now that is actually something a bit more achievable, right? Especially when our driver's starting from the back of the grid. Overtaking 5 different drivers can certainly happen. It's a pretty decent bonus as well, but let's see what's here. No DNF. That's not hard to do. Week in, week out. You know, I think I like the no DNFs. Most weeks will succeed in that. That comes out to be a pretty good sponsor for us. Could pay out pretty well. So our second race weekend brings us to Bahrain. We've now simulated practice. We're going to find out here in just a second what type of points we're able to accumulate from this one. And you'll see kind of just how much the pain is when it comes to this. You can see just over 300 points combined. That's not good. It's not good. And the acclaim boost is at least normal from that. Alright, on to our second simulated race. Let's see how we do with the adjusted AI this time. If it'll put us back into the teens. Second round of the 2020 Formula One World Championship.
Drivers' standings. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, Ferrari have improved their position. A strong weekend from them as they fight their way towards the top. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
Bit surprising here, but Juju all the way up in 7th. Boschung in 21st. So even with the adjusted AI, we still end up near the front. So very different from what I experienced in doing this manager MyTeam Principal mode last season, where we were almost always at the very, very back of the grid. This time, I'm placing up in the points, which is extremely surprising, but I'll continue to try to tweak settings and see if I can get us in the proper position, because earning 6 points already in our second race is a bit much. 9 days to fill in here. We've got a pair, 2 and 1. The rest are all 3-day events, so we're going to be able to fill basically 3 slots. We'll see what makes the most sense. Of course, we're thinking about long-term development. Team resource points, that's definitely a good one. Let's go ahead and add that. We have sponsor, advertisement, team acclaim, cash, definitely a good thing. And for that last one, what do we have? Power team, driver promotion. But that's to our second driver. I don't need to develop them. We get limited resource points here. We could boost the chassis without hurting the others. So we'll go ahead and take that as our third activity during this stretch. 1.36 million, still not enough for a facilities upgrade. And while we have 3 active upgrades already, I'm not sure if it's going to allow simultaneous development. Those are locked, but that could be positioning. Minor drag seems to be available. Right. So we are able to do simultaneous development. That's good. Between the two of those, that's going to give us a real boost up the list. Car's still in good shape after the first 2 races. So while we head into our third race, which is Vietnam, I'm very tempted to participate in this one because it's a new track to me. We will do it next season, for sure. This season, I want to kind of get in, establish things, build things up a little bit. So I'm going to sit this one out, but next season we will definitely do Vietnam as one of our featured races. For now, let's go ahead and simulate practice. I was actually pretty worried about both additions, Zandvoort and Vietnam, to the calendar when they were first announced. Zandvoort, bad reputation, very skinny track, so hard to pass, and that's already such an issue. It's actually kind of fun. And that constant camber, the banking and undulation in it, and you're in and out of corners, bang, 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 one after another with not really any straightaways. really just one short straightaway. It's an interesting track, and there are occasions, there are places on track where you can make a move. And it's a different track than what it was. I mean, they pretty much reworked the track from the ground up. Vietnam, I was also really worried about as a venue, as a street circuit. And when I first saw the very first look they had as a proposal, reworking the track a bit definitely did make it more interesting. Not an easy one, though. Not an easy track at all. And there's definitely a rhythm section, which they did rework, that presents a pretty fair challenge to it. And I have done some laps on there in my other series, which, by the way, if you haven't checked that out, be sure to check it out. It's a last question mark challenge series. It's my team career, but I start every single race from last place, and it's just a 5-lap sprint race. AI turned down a bit to where I can make some overtakes along the way, but relative to the car. So starting out, we're in the teens every race. Able to move up a handful of spots, but not get too far through the grid. It's a lot of fun, and like this, it's faster paced than what you're going to see on most channels in their career modes, one race weekend at a time, every few days or every week or so. This is going to allow us to push a lot deeper into the career than what you're going to see on those, where they only get 1 or 2 or 3 seasons in. So in our third test, let's see if we continue to grab points, or if we're going to slide down the grid a little bit and be more relative to our actual placement in the field. It does appear that the AI sees your driver as a much higher place, and maybe that was a recognition that last year they always had you so much further below everyone else on the grid. You can see that our teammate Boschung is very low rating, and they're finishing further back than they should. They should be ahead of Haas. They should be competing with Alfa Romeo and AlphaTauri, and up around 16th or 17th. I, meanwhile, apparently have a good enough rating that I was able to beat out the other cars. Lando Norris, the only surprise below us. Otherwise, we are competitive with the rest of these cars. We are a bit quicker than the other cars in the back of the grid. At 143.5, that's a little quick for my liking. I mean, that's faster than both Racing Points. It's actually a hair faster than the Renaults, but getting through the field is obviously a different matter than just pure pace. But we actually put a time a 1/10 of a second quicker than the Ferraris. And that's definitely a bit too quick. But the AI is what it is, and at least we're not right at the top. And also at least we're not dead last like it always was. You were always, well, it was 10 teams, right? No MyTeam edition. So we were 19th or 20th pretty much every race, and rarely 17 or 18, even when our teammate was up around 10th or 11th every race. So at least they're competitive, and as we develop the second driver and develop the car, they should be coming up the grid as well. So we've got time for one more race. That's going to be China, the one that's traditionally in the spot that Vietnam just was. We've got 3 days here. 2 options for that, but there's also driver promotion. That's second driver, so don't want to go there. We have durability, or we have power equipment. Definitely take that one. We are going to be bypassing the invitational event in this series. Actually, not always. Not always. We'll play it from time to time. Maybe we will. Right? We've only done 1 hot lap. Maybe we'll do a couple laps and take that event on. 5 days remain. Sponsor event, definitely the way to go. Fill that gap right there. 790 points. We might be able to get another upgrade on the go. We also have that 2 million now. So we're going to go to marketing, and we're going to upgrade our activities management Activating April 11th. Let's see. When is that going to fit in? Just 5 days. So we'll have it very soon. And what can we do now? You can see we have moved up the grid a bit. Car-wise, I'm kind of fitting in where I should be, aren't I? It's my teammate who's not up there. So we do seem to have average driver rating. All right. We had an aero upgrade. It's done. We had a chassis upgrade. It's done. And we had another powertrain upgrade. No wonder we've moved up the grid a bit with 790 points. Where to go next is definitely an important call. Chassis arrows the furthest behind. Front wing guardian flap is done, so that first arrow upgrade is complete. And what do we have? Zandvoort. Oh, there you go. We get a chance to ride around Zandvoort. Let's go ahead and take to the Invitational. So we're going to take a 2010 Red Bull Racing RB6 out on Zandvoort, and it's a time attack with checkpoint challenging. So 150k, 1,000 acclaim to make it 7.8 kilometers, and then we can just pull up from there and stop if we've already covered that distance. Here we go. So we're going to talk about a couple things, and hopefully I can keep my focus well enough. Here's the intention for the series. So I want to do a few races per season, and on those episodes I'll probably get 2 to 3 race weekends in. And then on an episode like this one, where we just do a couple random hot laps, I should be able to get normally... We only got 3 this time, but I should normally be able to get about 4 race weekends in within an episode. We did a lot of introduction stuff in this one. So at that rate, it should take roughly 6 episodes to get through each season. And that's kind of the key element of this series that I think will make it different from what's out there with your big sim racers that do this for a living and have a significant advantage. Okay, we just made it through there, but we're getting awfully close to that deadline. I'm off the pace. I might have to restart this one, which I would do off camera in order to complete it. Yep, just short. So I'll go ahead and complete this off camera, and I'll hopefully restart this event here. Hopefully it allows me to do so. It might not. But that is going to do it for this opening episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. And bye for now.